Learn to improve conversions and generate more leads with the video podcast at marketingoptimization.tv.
Hi, and welcome to the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're chatting with Tom Schwab. How you doing, Tom?
I'm doing great, Alex. Great to talk with you.
To get started, what would be your definition of optimization and why is it beneficial?
Yeah, to me, optimization all boils down to doing less things the customers loathe and doing more things the customers love. And it's important because the customer's the only expert and you need to listen to them.
Yeah, well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. The customer is the only expert. How to do continuous optimization and how it improves inbound marketing. Can you tell us a little bit of your perspective on inbound marketing and maybe some use cases of how you do that?
Sure. First, a lot of people are confused what you mean by inbound marketing. And I always define it by the opposite, right? That outbound marketing is what most people know and hate. It's the commercial that interrupts you. It's the billboard that's just an eyesore. It can even be digital stuff where it's just spammy emails. And outbound marketing typically is always about, I've got something to sell you. Inbound marketing, the way I look at it, is so much different. It's basically looking at it and saying that people are using the internet right now to search for things, and they're searching for answers. And those people that can help them, that can serve them, are going to build trust, they're going to build authority and thought leadership. And that's really, throughout time, we've always bought from people we know, like, and trust. Nothing has changed about that. So that by being helpful, by serving the customer, knowing the customer better, that you can do that. And we've worked with everybody from e-commerce to help their optimization, to even people that don't consider themselves e-commerce. And I always say that if you're trying to use your website to grow your business, then you're in e-commerce, right? And if you're not, even the IRS calls it a hobby after a while. So with that, we've worked with nonprofits that were just trying to get donations. And that's an e-commerce situation, right? You're trying to do a transaction there. And how can you give them what they want? We've worked with authors that were trying to turn their content into cash. And how do you give your readers, your listeners, more things that they value? Or even coaches, how do you take your message and then attract people, engage with them, and try to move them along the buyer's funnel?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And can you put in perspective, I know that people do get confused about inbound because, oh, yes, you want to do content marketing, you want to drive people to your website, but, oh, yeah, I need to sell my products too. How do you kind of mix the fine line between, oh, I need to promote this stuff and maybe do some content marketing, generate leads, and so forth?
Well, I think it's really, if you look at why are people coming to your website, if you think that everybody is coming there on their first visit to buy, you're probably mistaken. Now, if you're competing on price and AdWords and the lowest price, maybe. But for most of us, if we want to go ahead and attract a better customer, try to get a lifetime value of a customer, or even get more value out of the transaction, what we need to do is add more value, right? So with that, inbound marketing has the content that attracts the people. Then you need a way to engage them. Content is almost like, if you ever remember the movie from Jaws, how they get the sharks around them, they threw chum over the wall, over the side. Well, that's what content is. It draws the people in, but then you need something to hook them to start the conversation. And that can be, a free guide, a buyer's guide, the top 10 checklists about your product, the 5 biggest misconceptions, or it could even be like an online calculator. And something that they get a quick win and some value, and you get their email address. Not so you can spam them or just add them to your list and count the number, but so that you can really start to serve them and start to nurture them. And really, if you can educate them, especially if you get them early in the buying cycle, then you can go ahead and you can frame the decision, you can frame the questions they ask, and hopefully you can draw them to the solution that meets their needs, that is your product or service.
Yeah, and how would you say that kind of plays into the account of traditional e-commerce? Because a lot of clients come to me and they're, oh, I know I need to do content marketing, but my main objective is to sell this product. So how do you kind of, make them change their mindset to this inbound marketing strategy?
Yeah, well, when we first started our company, Winston Churchill said the definition of an American was somebody that always did the right thing after they tried everything else. And I always say that that makes me a red-blooded American because we started the business and, we went from a regional brick and mortar to an e-commerce. And we tried all the things that people were talking about. We tried SEO, and you know what? That grew the business. We tried pay-per-click and AdWords. That grew the business. But one of the things I looked at that was each time with pay-per-click, we were chasing a transaction, not trying to build the business. And not there's anything wrong with that, but just don't lie to yourself and say I'm growing a business here, because the day that I stopped paying for pay-per-click, my traffic would end. And one of the things I looked at was that it's a incredibly efficient market, so that whatever you start with, if it's AdWords or something, it's going to get more and more competitive with time. And I could see over a short period of time that my cost of customer acquisition was continually going up. And I could look out and say, in 18 months, it's going to cost me money to get a customer. And the business we were in didn't have a huge, long tail or lifetime value on customers. So I couldn't take a loss on each one. So that's when we started to look at, is there a better way to get traffic, free traffic, higher quality traffic. And, back, 5 years ago, everybody was talking about blogs, and that worked really well for us. But I think content is so much bigger than that. So for example, infographics, those are great content. What we're doing right now, a video or a podcast, this is perfect content. It's evergreen. People will find it and draw them back to your site.
Yeah. And I was actually just speaking with someone yesterday, and they're running a traditional e-commerce site, and they were telling me all their frustrations that they were having with pay-per-click advertising, spending too much money. They don't have the money to spend, but they don't want to turn it off because they think they're not going to get the traffic. But all the ads that are coming over, they're not converting anyway. So they're unsure of what to do next. And this is the perfect opportunity to now try and implement an inbound marketing strategy. Instead of wasting all that money, you can build more evergreen content over a period of time. So in this case, it's actually a jewelry store. So when someone's competing in a very highly competitive market like jewelry, how would you maybe put together an inbound marketing plan for something like that?
That's a great question, Alex. And you say you're wasting money on pay-per-click. I always said you're spending money on pay-per-click, you're investing money in content. So with that, if you're trying to build a jewelry store with content marketing, okay, think about your ideal buyer persona. Who's that customer that you want? It's probably a guy that knows nothing about jewelry, and is probably maybe getting engaged. So you could go ahead and focus on something like the guy's guide to buying the perfect diamond, and just explain that to him, and start talking to him about things to look for, questions to ask his fiance or his girlfriend, whatever it is, and go through that and start to really help him and nurture that along the way. So you could say, here's what to look for in the quality of a diamond. Here's what's to look for in the service of it, and start to really frame it as far as so when he goes to make a decision, that you are the only logical person for that, right? So now you're going through there, and so now he buys the diamond, right? So this is great. And it's a great product because it's high value, it's easy to ship, but it's also got a huge lifetime value. Not that he will hopefully, ever have to buy another engagement ring. But you think about it, okay, you now know when his anniversary is, right? You know that he's going to have children born, in the future. He's going to have anniversaries. He's going to have Valentine's Days. So now you can go ahead and continue to nurture him, and not send those emails. I call them in e-commerce the booty calls. Where every Black Friday, I haven't heard from you for a year, and all of a sudden you say, "I've got something to sell you." That's insulting. But instead, every big holiday, send this person some helpful email. here's 10 ideas for your bride for Valentine's Day. And maybe one of them's yours. Maybe other ones are people you have an affiliation with. Send them another one. Here's something special you could do for your first anniversary. And just really focus on that lifetime value of the customer. I think in e-commerce, too much we're focused on the transaction and not on the lifetime value of the customer. Starbucks is a huge brand, and it's not because they sell, $5 cups of coffee. It's because their lifetime value of a customer is like $30,000 to $40,000.
Yeah, and as you have more expensive items, it's probably going to take you more touch points and interactions with that potential customer before they're actually maybe able to make that decision. And as you said, you're framing it so you're keeping your brand top of mind while they're going ahead and maybe visiting your customers. I know in my case, I know that people research me before they're going to go to other consultants and things like that. And I know if I over-deliver on value and I speak to their individual needs, that they're going to keep in mind my services when they go and talk to other people. So how can you do that for yourself? How can you create videos or blog posts, content that maybe drip out and find those people on those places that they're hanging out, i.e. Facebook, and making sure that you're keeping top of mind. And as you said, maybe sending out a promo about the top 10 tips related to getting engaged or the right ring to pick. But sometimes you don't always want to sell. You just send them to a great piece of content, because not only are you providing extreme value, but also a little tactic is that you're actually implementing a retargeting pixel on their computer. So when they go back to Facebook, Google Ads, YouTube, you're potentially going to get a retargeting ad as well.
Right, and that's a great example there, that you can do so many things in so many different ways. And really it depends on who your ideal customer is and then who you are. So people say, well, what social media should I be on? And I said, whichever ones your customers are on, because they're the only experts there. If they're on Facebook, you should be on Facebook. If they're not on Instagram, why would you want to waste your time there? But there's so many of those things where you can help them out through helpful information. So going back to your example with the jewelry store. Okay, so before, when you ship it, you can send an email about, hey, here's the 20 best proposals, spots for proposals. Okay, that's helpful to that person. Caring for the ring. Here's things to think about for insuring the ring. So all of those things are adding value, and so that when he does have the next buying decision, that he will think of you. And you talk about people checking you out and multiple touch points. I think we forget that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And the bigger the decision, the bigger the purchase price, the more they have to trust you. Our grandparents would have laughed at us and said, the whole idea of e-commerce. So you're going to buy something from somebody you don't know, and you're going to give them, your money with the trust that they're going to send you something. That's outrageous. And, we would do that now for a small thing, but boy, before you start buying a large item, a consulting service, a coaching package, a diamond ring, you're going to make sure that you know who that person is. And, on the internet, you are what you publish.
And in that case, you're now faced with your next competition, and that's pretty much Amazon. If you're selling a high-ticket item, or maybe an item that people are maybe, it's new to somebody and you haven't done business with them before, I know for me, and I'm sure the audience has felt the same, you find that item, you go to Amazon to see if they have it too, because I know that it's going to be shipped quicker, it's going to be delivered, and refunds are free.
So really, it's that you trust Amazon, you don't trust whoever that merchant is. And so really what you've got to do as an independent merchant is you've got to offer something, some value, some trust way beyond Amazon. And really, if you know your customer, you should be able to connect with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do that, it's a strategy that having Amazon into your ecosystem, have your products on Amazon too. That way, if they do purchase them, when the product is delivered to your home or office, Inside that box is your branding. It's your catalog. It's maybe a coupon, a free gift, a free sample. That way you're building that lifetime value so they come back and do more business with you later.
Exactly. Once they know you and trust you, why would they go through Amazon when they could know you and just go directly through you?
Yeah. And you have experience in actually building e-commerce sites and taking them from, just a regional player to becoming more national leaders with really no marketing department at all. And that's one of the main questions that e-commerce sites come to me. How can I scale? How can I get past 1 million to 5 million or 5 to 10? Do you have any advice for people who really want to scale their e-commerce businesses?
Well, the great part is that inbound marketing or content especially, and all the systems that you build are all scalable, right? So that it doesn't take any more infrastructure to serve 1,000 customers a day than it does 2 customers a day. And the other thing is that it's a compounding effect. So that dollar that you spent last week on pay-per-click, that's gone. You'll never get benefit from that. But with e-commerce, most of the content we put out is evergreen. So with that, if somebody sees a piece of content that was put out 2 or 3 years ago, it'll still drive sales just like the one that you spent today. So what we typically see is more of a hockey stick. So it takes a while for it to ramp up. And what people usually do is and what we did was we ramped down our pay-per-click budget and reinvested that into content. So as our dependence on pay-per-click was going down, our traffic from organic and content was going up. And at a certain point, we just got to the point where it made more sense just to put all our focus on content, and pay-per-click was really just for if we were selling or if we were promoting that guide for how to buy a wedding ring. I mean, there's something that not a lot of people are bidding on, so that keyword would be very small, and you're not trying to get a sale immediately. You're trying to get a lead that you can nurture to a sale.
Yeah, and as you're building these evergreen pieces of content, videos, infographics, maybe even doing presentations or slide shares, all those pieces of content, they're going to be around forever. And not only do they help you with the inbound aspect of it, but they also do help you with the other side of optimization, which is search, getting people to ranking the search engine results. I know very firsthand that with the changes in Google algorithm updates in the last few years, this has become basically essential. If you want to recover from a Panda or Penguin update or any of those other issues that a lot of e-commerce sites have had in the past, adding additional content each week is essential because it takes, as you said, it takes a while for it to ramp up. But if you post content weekly and you drive social media to those pieces of content, you'll start to see that traffic start to build. And Google recognizes that. It adds to your quality score, it reduces your bounce rate, and you'll start to see search engine rankings actually rise.
And one of the greatest tricks for getting that content, because all of us as business owners, is like, I don't have time to do one more thing. So there's a couple of ways. One is repurpose what you already have. You're sitting on troves of content, and those could be emails that you've already sent to people. Well, if you've answered it for one person, put it up in a blog. Other people will have it. Now, the next time somebody asks you, Alex, I've got this question, give them a quick answer, maybe a little text expander answer, and then say, hey, here's 3 blogs that you can check out. So now they're coming back to your site and everything. The other thing is user-generated content. Think about all the content that users give you. And they may not be writing a 600-word blog, but you know what? They send a picture of them with them using their product. They send an email back that might have, 150, 200 words in it. We took all those emails one summer and got a college intern. He was a journalism intern, and he was used to writing newspaper articles. He took every one of those emails and made a blog post out of it. And we ran those for like the next 2 years, 1 day a week, on a featured customer story. And it reminded me of that old joke in a small town, how do you sell newspapers? Just put everybody's name in it, and they'll buy it, and their mom will buy it too. Well, it's the same way with user-generated content. If you go ahead and feature somebody in an article, they're going to share it with their network. If you use their picture on one of your products instead of using a sterile, cookie cutter picture, you'll see that their engagement goes up. Beretta USA talked about an experience they had, and they're a great e-commerce company. And in some ways, they can sell B2B through their distributors, and other ones B2C. But they talked about the impact that images had. It was one engagement to see just a picture of the product. It was another one to see one of their ideal customers holding it and smiling. It was totally a higher level of engagement if one of their customers was using it, smiling it, and shooting at the same time. So get away from those same pictures that everybody has on Amazon. If you're only competing on a picture and a price, God help you if you win.
That's a whole other conversation in itself, that's for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about you. You obviously have a lot of experience. Let's talk about maybe the services that you offer. How can people find out more about you, things like that?
Sure. Just a little background. I started my first job out of college was running nuclear power plants. So I was a mechanical engineer, went to the U.S. Naval Academy. And one of the things that always amazed me there was that you could run a nuclear power plant with high school students. Right now, there's basically 20-year-olds out there that are running nuclear power plants safely and have been doing so for the last 6 decades. And while they're great people, highly trained, all the rest of this, the systems that they use are really what's important. So that's one of the things that I've always looked at with my businesses and with my clients on how can you build systems to use all these tools. Because once you have the systems together, it makes it much easier. One of the things I say is that it's harder to run a small business than it is to run a nuclear reactor because nobody gives you the system. And that's what we really try to do. We work with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and small businesses to harness the power of the internet so that they can make sense of the tools and have a strategy so that they can attract customers, engage with them, make customers, and then ultimately make customer advocates. And we do online programs, we do coaching, we can do consulting. The big one that we're working on right now is really what we're doing right here. It's amazing the traffic that you can drive back to your site by doing content as podcast interviews. We've talked for about 30 minutes right now, and I've had a chance to tell my story to ideal customers, and we've had a lot of clients that have done that and just seen traffic that converts 30 times better than a blog.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just on the Shopify site last week, and they did a whole blog post all about podcasting, and it's just really a great opportunity to connect with people who are really like-minded like you and maybe have the same interests, and that way you're getting really into their earbuds, and it's a really intimate experience about really connecting. And I know the audience really relate. Now I'm over 100 different episodes, so they've heard my spiel over and over again. I really built trust. I connected really with a lot of people, helped a lot of people along the way. And that's one of really my inbound marketing strategies. I don't really sell that often. I give away a lot of free stuff. When I have a new book come out, I mentioned my free book, and people are really supportive because I've built that trust over time.
And the thing is that if you don't want to have your own podcast, because as you know, it's a lot of work. Anybody that tells you doing a show is easy either hasn't done it or hasn't done it well. So another way to do it is just, you're always looking for guests, you're looking for content, and so are other shows. So go ahead and figure out where your ideal customers are and get on those shows so that you can tell your story.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have something of value or you've built a business and been through these hurdles, people definitely want to hear your story. Highly recommend going on podcasts. I'll actually tell you guys directly, I don't get clients for my own podcast, but I do get clients from going on other people's podcasts. So there you go. Definitely want to try to go and get on other people's shows for sure. Well, let's tell people how they can find out you, maybe share your Twitter as well, things like that.
Sure. My website is just tmschwab.com. And if you go /Alex, any of the resources we talked about today will be right there. My Twitter is tmschwab, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there. Seems like many of my customers are there, so I hang out there too, and love to connect with people. One of my favorite quotes is from Derek Sivers, who wrote Anything You Want. He was the He started CD Baby, which is the precursor to iTunes. And he says, what's ordinary to you is amazing to me. So I love connecting with people and finding your story and learning from you and sharing with you what I know.
Yeah, Derek Silver's really a pioneer in the industry for sure. Great person to really connect with. I actually saw him speak a few times actually. To close out, what would be one thing that you would tell optimizers to do to really start their inbound marketing strategy? What would be that next step to really help them take their company to that next level?
I would say when you look at your analytics, don't look at it from the mathematic optimization. Look at it from your customer's eyes. What are they telling you with each one? Is the bounce rate telling you that you weren't clear on that? Was the call to action because they didn't converting well because they saw value in it? Always look back from it as what is the customer trying to tell.
Great advice right there. Been using this word a lot. Causation. What is causing someone to interact with that experience? If the inbound marketing strategy isn't working, there's some type of causation that you can fix.
And it used to be that in marketing, it was the dirty joke was 50% of the money that we spent was wasted. We just never knew what 50% it was. Now the customers are telling you every second which 50% it was. You just have to be smart enough to listen to the experts.
Excellent. Thanks a lot for your time, Tom.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all of the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.